The gold-devouring immortal didn't immediately give chase. Instead, it was hovering outside the ravine, observing the immense baleful chi down below with a hesitant look in its eyes. All of a sudden, a thunderous, jeering voice rang out from deep within the ravine. How was your 20-year-long dream? The gold-devouring immortal was infuriated by Han Li's taunt, but it remained still on the spot. Immediately thereafter, Jintong also began to fan the flames as she jeered. If you want to eat me, then you're going to have to come get me. I'll be waiting for you. The gold-devouring immortal was completely tipped over the edge upon hearing this, and the golden light emanating from its body began to swirl and churn like golden flames. A layer of golden ripples emerged over its body, and it quickly shrank down to less than 1,000 feet in size. At the same time, the golden light around its body became denser than before, making it appear as if it were enshrouded in a layer of golden flames. Immediately thereafter, the gold-devouring immortal swooped down into the ravine, and the fiery golden light around it acted as a protective barrier that kept the surrounding baleful chi at bay. Even so, it was clear that the gold-devouring immortal was very uncomfortable in this environment. Nevertheless, it was descending down the ravine far faster than Han Li had back when he was making his initial descent. It didn't take long before it spotted Han Li and Jin Tong at the bottom of the ravine, and a hint of befuddlement flashed through its eyes. It simply didn't make sense for them to have advanced so significantly in their cultivation bases in just the short span of 20 years, and even though it was still far above them at the late high zenith stage, a hint of caution had welled up in its heart. Instead of blindly continuing its descent, it hovered in mid-air to observe the area from above, and it quickly noticed that there were some things concealed within parts of the bottom of the ravine, where the baleful chi was particularly dense. Faint spiritual power fluctuations were emanating out of those areas, and it seemed that some type of array had been set up. A hint of disdain flashed through the gold-devouring immortal's eyes as it suddenly opened its mouth to release a golden tornado, which swept through the bottom of the ravine, causing all of the baleful chi to recede and revealing a series of circular stone platforms and triangular black flags. The stone platforms and black flags were blown all over the place in the face of the golden tornado, and the entire array was instantly ruined. "This is what you had set up for me?" The gold-devouring immortal asked. Han Li and Jin Tong both remained silent. All of a sudden, a hint of self-deprecation welled up in the gold-devouring immortal's heart. What was it so worried about? How could an early high zenith stage brat and a human at the pinnacle of the gold-devouring immortal possibly pose any threat? You and I were one to begin with. You'll realize this when you become a part of me. All these years that you spent fleeing were completely pointless. As opposed to continuing your futile struggles, I suggest you give up now, the gold-devouring immortal said. By your logic, why aren't you surrendering and allowing yourself to be eaten by me? You said we were one to begin with, so what does it matter? Jin Tong scoffed. The gold-devouring immortal remained calm as it replied in a measured and patient voice. Even though you and I were part of a single entity, there's a high level of disparity in our intelligence levels and cultivation bases, so it's far easier for me to devour you than the opposite. Even if you don't get devoured by me, you'll be devoured by another gold-devouring immortal eventually. So why not surrender yourself to me now? Perhaps I could even choose to preserve some of your memories. Honestly, I'm quite glad to see that you've reached the early high zenith stage. Han Li had been silent this entire time, but he finally interjected. If you want to devour Jin Tong, then you'll have to ask me, her master, for permission first. The gold-devouring immortal immediately burst into fury upon hearing this. A mere golden immortal stage human like you dares to proclaim himself to be the master of a gold-devouring immortal? Your insolence is astounding. At the same time, it swung both of its front limbs through the air, releasing two crescent-shaped streaks of translucent light that sped directly toward Han Li. The streaks of translucent light appeared no different from the ones unleashed by Jin Tong, but they were several times faster. And Han Li was immediately struck by an asphyxiating sense of pressure as he stood in their path. Fortunately, he was already prepared for this, And he unleashed his reversal true axis ability, darting away with Jintong to evade the attack. At the same time, he swept a sleeve through the air to send two streaks of light, one black and one white, hurtling toward the gold-devouring immortal. The gold-devouring immortal had some recollection of the white object. It was the same sheet of paper that Han Li had used during their previous battle, and it had already been severely damaged last time. So the gold-devouring immortal certainly wasn't expecting to see it again. A gust of howling wind swept through the air as the sheet of paper swelled drastically in size, transforming into a white mountain that was riddled with cracks before crashing down upon the gold-devouring immortal. As for the black object, that was a rectangular inkstone that descended onto the ground directly beneath the gold-devouring immortal, then transformed into a sea of black flames before rising up into the air. Both of them were formidable immortal treasures that Han Li had secured from Feng Tiandu, but they were made to look quite lackluster in the face of the gold-devouring immortal, which lashed out with one of its front limbs, sending a streak of translucent light sweeping toward the white mountain up above. The mountain immediately split apart down the middle with a resounding boom, then reverted back into a sheet of paper that had been sliced into two before drifting down onto the ground. Immediately thereafter, the gold-devouring immortal opened its mouth to release a burst of tremendous suction force, and the sea of black flames down below was sucked into its stomach as a swirling vortex in the blink of an eye. With the sea of black flames gone, a series of white jade pillars with all types of runes engraved upon them suddenly rose up from the ground, forming a huge white stone array that hurtled directly toward the gold-devouring immortal. At the same time, the mountain faces on either side of the ravine began to glow with radiant silver light, and four enormous runes emerged upon them, then transformed into four giant runic projections that converged toward the gold-devouring immortal. These four runes contained the Azure Dragon Wood Trapping Talisman, the White Tiger Radiant Metal Talisman, the Vermilion Bird Fire Raising Talisman, and the Xuanwu Water Barring Talisman, all of which Han Li had found in that treasured case that he had also obtained from Feng Tiandu. The roars of tigers and dragons rang out in unison as an azure worm and a giant white tiger pounced at the gold-devouring immortal, and they were joined by a crimson fiery bird and an enormous turtle, trapping the gold-devouring immortal in the middle. The gold-devouring immortal merely gave a cold harumph upon seeing this, and countless blades of translucent light that were as thin as cicada wings erupted out of its body, punching countless holes into the array down below in the blink of an eye. The four symbols summoned by the array were also no match for these blades of light, and they were eradicated in the blink of an eye. However, before the gold-devouring immortal had a chance to do anything else, an enormous shadow came crashing down from above, and it was a giant three-story pavilion that fell upon it like a cage. The pavilion had a very lavish and opulent interior, and waves of strange sounds rang out within it, striking the gold-devouring immortal with a sense of disorientation. All of a sudden, it felt as if it had been cast back into that illusion where it had managed to capture Jintong and reach the great encompassment stage. A thunderous roar abruptly erupted out of its mouth, and the resulting sound waves were so formidable that they instantly drowned out all of the strange sounds, while countless cracks appeared over the surrounding pavilion. Han Li's pupils contracted slightly upon seeing this. It seemed that the gold-devouring immortal's spiritual sense seemed to have become more formidable after being stuck in that illusion for 20 years. He had thought that the pavilion immortal treasure that had been refined in the profound heavenly gourd would be able to trap the gold-devouring immortal for around 10 seconds, thereby buying him enough time to unleash his mantra-treasured axis, but it wasn't even able to last 3 seconds. A resounding boom rang out as the three-story pavilion exploded into countless fragments. And at the same time, Han Li yelled, "It's time, fellow Taoist Moguang." As soon as his voice trailed off, a black humanoid figure that was completely enshrouded in baleful qi abruptly appeared behind the gold-devouring immortal, and they were gripping an antiquated black spear that they plunged directly at the gold-devouring immortal's back. The humanoid figure was naturally none other than Mo Guang, and just as he had promised, he was currently displaying early high zenith stage power. The spear in his hand began to glow radiantly with black light, while the crimson mark in the spearhead was also glowing brightly. And a lotus flower-like spear projection had emerged from the tip of the spear. Mo Guang was racing through the air as he plunged the spear toward the gold-devouring immortal with fierce killing intent, and the spear was displaying several dozen times the power compared with back when Han Li had been experimenting with it. The gold-devouring immortal had already detected the attack, but it made no attempt to take evasive measures as it opposed the spear with its two front limbs.